sure. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, I sure hope we're in the right live and that I don't have two lives running. But let's see if I have the right live running. No, it still has the wrong title on TikTok. I thought I helped that, but I don't think I did. Am I correct on YouTube? Yes, I'm in the right one on YouTube. Hello, Kevin. And let me just see. Now I'm going to choke on something. Okay. Hi, everybody. How are you? So I told you just real quick recap about last night. I almost have this up. Okay, I just have to finish putting up the giveaway. I have the blog post up. I updated the blog with all the interviews, so I got that done. And tomorrow morning, I will finish the giveaway entry thing, and then you can go enter to win. Yes, the company that is sponsoring this is giving away a copy of the Life in Christ Bible to one winner in the United States. Okay, so I wish you all good luck, whoever goes over and enters, and it's very easy to enter. There's no purchase required, and it's very easy. Okay, what else? Next week, I have a slew of interviews coming up. I had a wonderful interview with Dr. Warren Farrell today, from Rollmate to Soulmate, and he talks about ways of lasting love and the ways we can communicate with each other better, whether we are a couple, parents, family members, business owners, whatever it is. And if you get his book, there's a little QR code, and there's an actual course that he has that is, I think he said it was $99, but it's really good. And for someone that doesn't have a therapist, he will, I think you even get to talk with him with it. And if you're not happy with it, he will give you your money back. So check it out. The links are all in the video description. Now, moving on from that, next week I think I have at least 4 or 5 interviews coming up. And we've got some different things going on, so that'll be good. And, of course, Gypsy is... Hi, Sarah. Finally up. Who's up? You're up. I'm up. We're all up. You want to call in? How about call in now? Let's talk now. You want to talk now? Can you shoot me an email so I can send you the number? You want to talk about Gypsy? You want to talk about Gypsy? You can come on now and talk about Gypsy, because Donna Adelson was in court today ahead of her, I can't believe this, September 17th. They're going to start picking the, you want to talk about Gypsy? See my email. Watch, Kevin, there it is. See the email where it says Carolyn@truecrimechat.org? Copy it exactly, because you would not believe how many people make mistakes on that. They either put .com or they forget something. So just highlight it, copy it, and then shoot me an email and I will give you the number. Okay, so she was head of the jury selection. I cannot believe it. But she was back in court Friday morning. She's less than 2 weeks from the start of her murder trial. And let's see, jury selection's going to start September 17th. Friday was a pretrial hearing. It focused mainly on phone records prosecutors hope to use to show that Donna Adelson had a role in this murder-for-hire plot. And it was just a day after the judge issued a 111-page order which denied the defense's request to dismiss the case against Donna. The defense had cited a 9-year delay between the murder-for-hire and arresting Donna Adelson, and the fact that certain records that may have helped bolster her defense were no longer available. That's so much BS, because if they used it for the other trials, it's there. Come on. That's Rushbaum. The court cannot conclude that the cell phone and SunPass records, if preserved, would have been exculpatory per se, Circuit Judge Stephen Everett said in his order. This, a material impairment of the defense's capacity to prepare a defense, does not exist. The judge also denied a request from the defense to toss out the bump. Remember that? When they send that undercover FBI guy to Donna Adelson, and what they called the bump. That, right? Okay, and he pretended that he was somebody that knew Luis Rivera from the Latin Kings, who was already in prison, and that he needed money for Katie Magbanua. He issued a similar order prior to Charlie Adelson's trial. Other updates, the defense filed a motion Thursday, which is under seal, regarding the testimony of Robert Adelson, Donna's son. Remember the son that's a doctor up in Albany, I believe it is, up here in New York, that is estranged from them? Let's see. Although he's been previously listed as a state witness, the eldest Adelson sibling has never been called to testify in the case, so it's not clear whether the state intends to call him this time to testify against his mother. Ooh, could be interesting. So that's it. And then 17th, we're going to be covering that trial, definitely. We've covered all of it, and Charlie and that whole family, and people are thinking, when is Wendy going to be arrested? We'll see that too. All right. Let me see if it. And then 17th, we're going to be covering that trial. Sorry, I hate when that happens. Hi, video reel. An email. It says blocked. Who says blocked? Who says blocked, video reel? You're not blocked. You're not blocked. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about, video reel. You're not blocked. Anyway, Sarah, did you send it? You sent it. Okay. So we're going to have a call in now. Oh, you know what I've got to do? Sorry, people in Zoom. Hold on, I've got to kick everybody out. I've got to kick everybody out, Sarah. Don't worry about it. I just have to start a new Zoom. It's okay. It's okay. Invite, copy invitation. Okay. I am sending to you. Hang on. Where is my email? Here it is. And hi to everybody. If you're watching on TikTok, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on Twitch, welcome. And I put my link to the channel on my TikTok profile, so you could just click that if you want to come on over here and make a call. You're just going to email me, and then I'm going to give you the number. Okay, Sarah, I don't have it yet. Let me check my spam folder. Did you copy it exactly and make sure it said .org? Because I don't have it yet. Really, copy it exactly. People tell me, oh, no, I got it. And then there's a letter they're leaving out. Or they're just inadvertently typing .com. Because I don't have it yet. I'm looking right at my emails. It's Carolyn at truecrimechat.org. And I do not have an email from you yet. Oh, there we go. Just got it. Okay. I'm going to reply to you with the number now. Okay. Good. All right. Oh, I'm glad you're here, Moon Dreams. How are you? Hi, Debbie Two Scooter. Debbie 2 Scooter, did you see the cup that I had at the last auction with Chucky? No worries, Marie. I'm not really interested, but thanks anyway. Dream, Soul Souffle, hi. Callers calling in first. Yeah. So we talked about Donna Adelson. I can't believe it. Jury selection is going to start the 17th. Gypsy, Soul. I don't think she's done so much today. She kind of laid low a little bit. There is some stuff about that little boy and stuff, but I'm not touching that with it, as Rod would say, with a 10-foot pole, with a 10-foot pole. Honey, I'm so not threatened by you. But no, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Hi, Paint It Black. Well, you missed it, Scooter. You missed it. You missed it, dear. Okay. Please be wearing clothing. Okay. Let me hope Sarah's wearing clothing. Sarah? Sarah? Let's see. Sarah? Sarah? I'm just going to put something on the screen over here.
Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great. I'm like you. I was like writing little notes on a Post-it because if I don't write them, then I'll get all over the place. So some really interesting things that have come up, obviously, since the autopsy report, which I thought, and regardless of people's what they think about Fancy, I do think that she does do a good job of looking into things and saying, you know, whether something is true or not. But they did come up with a theory that I thought was really interesting because I work every day, so I just kind of listen to it on the way to work. Mm-hmm. And they found that there were all around the body these dryer sheets. And I didn't really know people.
Uh-oh. You went on mute, Sarah. Sarah, you accidentally hit the mute button. Uh-oh. Sarah, you accidentally hit the mute button? Let me tell her. Let me see if I can tell her that she accidentally hit the mute button.
Unmute.
Okay,
Unmute. Can you hear me?
All right.
I'm gonna keep you away from my face. So okay. It was an interesting thing with the dryer sheets because I've heard of like old wives' tales of people putting dryer sheets in their linens and stuff like that. I've never done that, but I have heard of people doing that.
Yeah.
But when the autopsy photos and they really looked at them, and this wasn't just Fancy, it was also Ryan, who works on her team and is also has her own channel, but it was all around the body. And like when the body was kind of like thrown down on the bed, there were no pillows, there were no anything, which doesn't really make sense for somebody who was not doing well. Like you would think you would need at least a pillow, mm-hmm. you know. Yeah. I just, so then they were talking about the like the pattern that was found all over her body, which to me still doesn't really make sense because it could have been from what was on the bed. But there's been some very disturbing findings to me that have come out in this autopsy report. The first being she didn't have anything in her system. Now, yes, she could have potentially had a dose of insulin, a higher dose than she should have had. But even like the time of death was put before the call was even made. And David Blanchard, to me, in like, this is no commentary on this channel, this is my opinion. David Blanchard, who has lied consistently about most things, he went through a window which seems like there's absolutely no way he could have gone through, because there was shit all like in front of it, because Gypsy was the one who was taking care of the house, and God knows she'll, throw Ryan under the bus for his, cleanliness or whatnot, when he's going through, different surgeries for his weight loss surgery. But we all know the girl can barely get out of bed to do shit all. So I find it very odd. And then there was also a live that she was on, and somebody posted something about David Blanchard and him basically being the one, and again, this is all conspiracy talk, but that he might have been the one to help her move her mother's body from room A to room B or whatever happened in that house. And her face, she did have a weird look on her face, I will say that. But what I don't understand, it just seems like this whole investigation, and we blame the DA, and we do for rightful reasons, because there was a political thing going on, and they had, there was a big fraud, and everyone wanted to believe Gypsy was this, whatever. But I feel like even the time of death wasn't recorded properly. Even luminol spraying wasn't recorded properly. They didn't test, which isn't uncommon, so this I can't say, but they didn't test to see if she had extra insulin in her system. But with someone of her condition, that might have been something that they should have checked, because she did have insulin in the home. So to have no medication in her system, to me, makes it seem like Gypsy wanted her to feel everything that she was feeling. And she's also come out, she said 2 different things, which are quite famous. One is, Gypsy, don't hurt me.
Yeah, I heard that.
And the other one being, I'm not dead yet. Please don't hurt me. And
she said, I think Gypsy said that her mother was falling asleep, and she said, I'm feeling sleepy. Please don't hurt me. Didn't she say, I'm feeling?
I think so. But like, whose mother says that to them?
Right. And wouldn't you clarify that, or say something, especially if your mother ended up murdered, that her last words were, please don't hurt me.
Exactly. I just was on. So there's been a lot with the content creators, which you have also put out. So I know your audience, and I'm sure there's a lot of mutual people in your audience, because I'm a big fan of you and other content creators. So I know that there's people listening that are very well aware of what she's been up to. So that's why I thought maybe she was putting in this LLC thing to try and hide behind what she's doing.
I think she's doing the LLC because she's probably figuring sooner or later someone's going to be suing her, and it's better to get the LLC instead of having all of her personal assets on the line, right?
I don't even understand still with a son of Sam law. I mean, I know I'm in Canada, so I'm in Ontario. I'm as close to the States as you can get. Like, I can see Buffalo from where I am.
Right.
But I don't really I always thought it was law. I thought it was what we call federal law. So murder, anything like that to us is federal. So it's not provincial. Everyone, if you're charged with murder, it's the same regardless of the province. But I don't get how she got around that. And if she is hiding money so that she's not sued by her mother's family or by other people, personally, I don't know why Nick's family hasn't sued her, because the night that the story is that the mom and the stepdad wanted to take Nick down to pick up Gypsy. And he said no, he wanted to go by himself. And again, yes, he's in his 20s, but he has a mentality of like someone much younger than that.
Right, yeah.
And she preyed on that.
Oh, yeah.
And
definitely.
But that's what that's what makes me angry when people are like defending Gypsy and they're like, well, if he was so, out to lunch, basically, he shouldn't have been allowed outside by himself. And she said the same thing. She said, he can talk and walk, and basically, so he's not disabled. I mean, it's a very disgusting view. And like today I tried very hard because Bree goes on her lives. I know you've been blocked.
Oh, I'm blocked. I can see. Yeah, I'm blocked.
I know you've been banned, but she's been on her lives for 14, 15 hours straight. And
Are you serious?
Oh, I'm not even kidding.
And then, wait a second. Does she do only TikTok?
I think so. I don't think she's allowed on. So with TikTok,
though, right, once it goes over an hour, it won't replay.
Which is why, who is paying for this?
So you've got to watch it. Like, what I'm trying to say is when that girl is live, right? If you're not watching it, that's it. There's no replay.
Unless someone screenshots it.
Okay, unless someone screenshots it. All right. But, yeah, I'm surprised she doesn't. Why doesn't she go to a forum, like at least also be on YouTube where it would keep the live up?
I think on YouTube and stuff, I don't think she's allowed on it. It's the same as Natasha Cooper. Natasha Cooper is not allowed. And like, people can say what they want about Fancy. I understand. I get it. She's not the most approachable person. Sometimes she cuts people off. Sometimes she's not the easiest to talk to. But Natasha Cooper, there's a reason she's not on YouTube. And the reason for that is because she put out Gannon Stouch's autopsy photos when his stepmother murdered him. Oh, and keep in mind, she put him in she
sold them, and so did Zav Girl.
Yeah, I don't know how Zav Girl came back from it. I don't know how because she is still on YouTube.
Yeah, it was more than just that with Natasha Cooper, from what I understand. It was more than just that.
Apparently she's got a ton of fraud. Like, even, again, I always try to, like, watch, because if one's going against the other and the other, you take it with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. But apparently, like, she's done a ton of that kind of shit to people. And, like, there were girls that were bringing, like, prom dresses and other dresses to her as a consignment.
Yes, a consignment, and she was renting them out. Yes, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
But then they got destroyed.
Yes, I know all of it. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. It's
so
not funny,
she
it's
can't
sad.
exactly be. But there was so I'm in a group with a bunch of the content creators. With Nina, with Conspiracy, with Morbid, like there's like a Discord that we're all in, and there was a video, and I kid you not, it was a video of her Gypsy's stepmom calling up Natasha.
Oh gosh, I heard that. Wait a second. I thought I was dreaming that. Wait a minute. Did it go? Did she call her after the autopsy photos?
Yes.
Yes, and she said, I need to talk to you. It's not going to be heavy.
And she looked like she was Ursula's sea witch, like when she was smiling.
I did see. I only heard it because I don't know how I heard
Oh,
it.
her
I forgot
Natasha's
all about it
face.
until
It
you
was
just mentioned it.
scary.
It played, I think, during when I was sleeping, and I just now
Yeah, I do
I
that
would
all the
have
time.
never remembered if you did not just say that.
No, it was scary. I just watched her face, like the look on her face. It was like Ursula when
Yeah, and
like
why
the
would
sea
Christy
witch, like when
call?
she gave away her
Yeah,
voice.
but why would Christy call Natasha?
Why would she? Because she doesn't want Fancy to have them. And and again, I know some people don't like Fancy, but Fancy's a lot smarter than Natasha is. And I don't even know what the hell. Like, so there was supposed to be, which is still happening, but now, ironically, Natasha's pulled out of it. Um, there's a bit of a protest for Nick going on in
Oh,
October, and
October. Yeah, I've heard of
there
that.
may be more, but she's pulled out of it.
Who did? Natasha?
Natasha. So, I mean, they've been trying to silence Nick since day one. So, yeah, of course. I mean, if I have to look as like an unbiased person, I would say, of course, they want Natasha because sometimes I don't know if what she says is true. She says she's talked to Nick, she's talked to this person, she's talked to that person. I don't know who she's actually talked to. I mean, any of us could say we've talked
Oh,
to
yeah, right.
this
Yeah.
person or that. And if anything, I hope, like, I would rather any day him talk to somebody like you who's an actual nice person who would actually, like, take what he's saying and do something good with it than something like something or someone like her. But apparently she also like didn't pay for the
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah,
records.
yeah, all of that. Yeah, that's all part of this stuff. Yeah, but
Which is just another, it's just another example, like
right.
another example of fraud.
Yeah, and I want to ask you something else that I heard that around that when Gypsy got that tattoo. Have you heard this?
Oh, from so Nina and I email her quite a bit because when she says she's relentless, so am I. And I had no idea until today that the dots on her back actually line up to the stab wounds. That's psychotic.
I mean, even if they didn't line up, the fact that she got that tattoo, like right in the vicinity of where her mother was stabbed. Do you know what I mean?
Even if it's not dot
Even if
to
it didn't
dot,
line up,
like,
even if it didn't line up, but being that
and
the
also
mother
her
has
mother was morbidly obese. I mean,
right.
have you seen the there's a video that actually just came to light quite recently. Canada Star showed it, but a few other people showed it, but it kind of, some people had said they thought the murder started happening on the 7th. However, it's on the 8th. And it's kind of gross because, like, I don't know a lot about feeding tubes. I was in nursing for 2 years and then just decided, like, that's not what I wanted to do. But she would keep her feeding tube in for, like, over a year at a time and not clean it, which is
Gross.
disgusting.
Yeah.
So that right on the 8th, I believe, there is it shows she's got Dee Dee, who's got gout, who's barely able to walk properly, pushing her lazy freaking ass in the wheelchair.
Yeah,
And
we
she's
saw that.
like,
Yeah.
she's got her legs up on the
Yeah,
chair in
yeah,
a
crisscross. Yeah.
cross-legged. Like, how did no one be like, I thought you were disabled. Like, what are you doing? So, but she's still getting her mom, to
Pushing her,
take
yeah.
her around. And I almost wonder, she told Nick that her mom did something to her feeding tube, and that's how they lost the baby. I'm putting big quotations around that.
Right.
I'm almost wondering, because according to Fancy, I don't know if this is true. I don't know if they have the records to this, but there was actually no infection. Like, she could have just changed it herself. But in the past, she did have to get it changed because she would let it go so long, which is pretty nasty. That's
Yeah.
disgusting. But yeah, I don't know. Like, apparently, like that last time, which is the last time on CCTV footage that they ever see Dee Dee, and she's pushing around that little freaking, that entitled brat. Like, I think she's a demon. I'm not a religious person, so I'm not saying it like, oh, I think I just, even when I hear about what she did to her cats, what she did to her dog,
Right.
the dog got the best out of it.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
'cause
like,
you
she
got
just
to-
threw
yeah.
those cats outside.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, and she worried about him so much, right? Yeah, bye. See you later.
Exactly. So I don't know, but today I went on Bree's Live because they were making fun of Nina and Emma, who is very young. She's like in her early 20s, and just being like, they can't ever have a debate.
Where did she
They
meet that girl?
can't.
She met that girl Bree at the Jazz Fest. Is that?
How did she meet?
I think
She's
somebody
put her
said that.
life
I
down
forget who
on the
said
line
that.
for her. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
wouldn't even be surprised if they've got someone in here like recording it. But anyways, I went into her chat because I knew she was saying bad things, and I actually didn't go for Brie. I said, nobody hates you, Brie. That may or may not be true. I'm not too sure. But I just said, everybody is trying to warn you that once this person is done using you, you're going to be gone. And if you think you know them better than their own mother knew them, then, I guess you know more. But it wasn't just her mother. It was Ryan. It was Nick. It was her best friend when she was a young child. I'm sure it was other family members. Like, she doesn't have, she's zero.
She doesn't. She's a sociopath, psychopath. She doesn't have any remorse. She doesn't have empathy. She doesn't care. She has no conscience.
Absolutely. But I tried to go in with that and just be like, but I was typing, and so something would go in and I'd be like, it didn't go in properly. And I try to redo it. And they were like making fun of me. Like, I don't know how to type. And I was like, okay, I'm clearly retyping it and saying that, because sometimes on TikTok, if you hit something really fast, your message can go up in a live chat. Again, not being rude to any of you. And actually, I was asking for the name of the one person who kept like calling me out and being like, oh, this dumbass, okay, can I get your name? Because I'd love to just sit and have a debate with you about whatever you think. And what's happening now with that kid, I'm not sure. You are on very late, and I was working really early this morning, so I apologize.
I have steered away from that because that's something I don't want to get involved with, is sick kids, and whether, I don't want to.
He is sick, but it's okay. Like, he is. It's not a death sentence. It's just something that is an unfortunate thing, but with the care, we'll just put it this way. It's his mother that's the problem. And he didn't even know what Gypsy did.
Mm-hmm.
And
I hope that he doesn't. I
to
mean,
be throwing your child out there as some kind of propaganda. I mean,
yeah,
this week has been crazy times. Not just that,
but she
I
laid
think
pretty low today. Gypsy did.
Oh, what happened today? Because I was working.
No,
so.
she laid low. She didn't make any videos. She didn't do any more influencer videos. I feel like she's staying at Ken's more than she's supposed to. I just have a feeling about it because it seems like she's just at his place more than 2 days a week. But that's just my own feeling.
Do you think that she did change it to the LLC so that if something comes back on her of something that's been said, because for example, the main reason has been her harassing these content creators and trying to strike their channels. Do you think that she's trying to move it away from her name to an LLC so that she doesn't get into shit?
Oh yeah, I think yes, I definitely think that's why she's doing that, to make it Gypsy Rose Media, not Gypsy Rose, the person that is on the line for this stuff. And you have to also think that I don't know how her family has funneled that money, but I've heard they put it in several different accounts. I've heard they put it even in accounts in Mia's name and the parents' name and.
Well, have you heard about the lawyer that ran the whole baby shower?
Yes.
And I know I'm still that one person, and we've talked about it, about me still not 100% thinking she's pregnant. And it's only because you can only cry wolf so many times. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
if it wasn't for the ultrasounds, I wouldn't believe it either. But she's had 2 ultrasounds now. And she actually even left the name of the OBGYN.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even believe that. But it's like, go and check up on me. Go ahead.
Which is a total normal thing for a normal human being to do. But no, I definitely just think that, okay, like, fair enough. Like, if she is pregnant, that is terrifying for that child. However, I think it's going to be scary if they do have a lot of her disorders, because she's going to have to really explain why this was abuse for her, and it's not going to be for this child.
I think Christy's going to end up raising the child, and she might end up back in prison at some point.
I hope she does. I hate when people are like, let her live her life. You know what? Let her live her life. She doesn't deserve a day.
Well, you know what? I mean, she should have just, okay, if she had just come out, right, and had this Lifetime thing and her books, that's where the majority of her money is coming from. I know she's making a lot on TikTok now, but she still would have had enough, right, with that stuff. And she wouldn't have been, like, in the people's faces the way she is now.
But it's never enough for people.
But no,
like that.
no. I think she really enjoys getting in people's faces. And it seemed like when she did the vitamin endorsement, though she said it wasn't sponsored, she was just so smug.
Like when she said she was just taking it to take it because it tasted okay.
And she wants the best for her baby. I've heard of girls
taking. I still don't know what the hell she was taking. I
don't even know that everything she was taking would be recommended, because she was even talking about sleep supplements when you're pregnant, like melatonin and everything. And I don't know. I mean, like, she was just going to town with first showing the prenatal and then showing collagen and all of this stuff. And I'm just okay, God. So all of that other stuff is not for the baby. Okay, she's not talking about folic acid or something.
She's never talking about the baby. Even that kid that you didn't want to discuss, and I respect that about you very much. But what's the company that TNT, or what is it called?
TMZ?
Yeah. It wasn't about It was not about the kid. It wasn't about the kid. No part was about the kid. It was about how amazing Gypsy Rose is because she's helping out this child.
Well, that was probably from her PR team that she hired. They're trying to look for something to rehabilitate her image.
Get out of bed. She didn't even get out of bed. The bitch couldn't even get out. I apologize for my language, everyone. The bee couldn't even get out of bed. So really, like, this young boy, you couldn't even get out of your bed. You don't have a job. You couldn't have put a shirt.
Well, she has a job.
Not even
She's
saying,
a writer.
you know.
She's a writer. She has a job. She's a writer. Yeah. She's a social media influencer.
It's unbelievable. But I do recommend.
Who is this Courtney? What is it? Was it Courtney Couture or Kaylee Couture?
Oh, so that it's the same as, so all those dresses, and I actually kind of liked a couple of them, and I'm not pregnant, nor will I ever be, but I actually kind of liked a couple of them. Then I was like, well, never buying that.
But they're not maternity. I don't think they're maternity.
I don't know if they are, but irregardless, now for me, I won't be purchasing them. But she got and it surprised me. So I'm from England and now I'm in Canada. But the one company that gave to her all the weird,
the baby stuff, the baby Urker.
But it said Urker, which
Urker.
They don't even know. But that was actually a UK company.
Oh yeah, I know. I know. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which Manchester. I was actually even more surprised because, like, really, how much are, like, I know it's an international case now, but
I think that came from the Kardashians. I think the Kardashians recommended that they do that.
Do you ever watch the creator Toddy One Skip?
I've seen her a couple of times.
She's awesome, and she's very real. She doesn't just focus on Toddy, that's her name. She doesn't just focus on Gypsy, but she does, recently it's been a lot of Wade Wilson, as well as that kid, that the treadmill boy.
Oh yes.
The dad, and so she does numerous cases. I kind of follow her for all of it, but I do watch all her Gypsy stuff. And she was recently also on Sir Morbid. And I think everyone's just, at the end of the day, they're just coming together, and everyone's just so annoyed with. It's not even Gypsy. It is Gypsy that's doing it, but she's got Brie and all these other mouthpieces that are willing to put themselves. I maybe shouldn't say this on air, but I mean, a concern of mine that was something that I felt should go through to the parole board and her PO was the fact that Brie had on a member of Nick's family, and it was, I think, his uncle who has similar disabilities to Nick. Right. Why are you having that person on there?
Yeah.
Like that's not okay. Like, she's been told, stay away from that family. And even if this person isn't understanding that, that's on them to not understand that. You understand it. Another interesting piece is the temperature. So this is where the other thing kind of comes into place, where people were thinking, a lot of people think the body was moved either from the shed where she was doing all her creepy whatever.
You know what I think about Dee Dee weighed, how much did they say?
250 at 5'2".
252. Okay. A person that weighs 130 pounds is hard to move dead weight like that.
But what if she was in a wheelchair?
You still, it's a very, very difficult thing. You know what I mean? It's a very difficult thing, and I think there would be more of a trail and evidence all over the place. I think.
See, that's what I was thinking too, but from that shed, and again, like these are all just theories, it's nothing is, but the night that all of that was happening, there was like rain, and David Blanchard, who is no relation, the neighbor,
Right, which
he
is
has
odd
come up
thing
with
that their name is
so many
Blanchard,
freaking
isn't it?
stories.
That
Sorry,
and
what was that?
that's just odd that their name is Blanchard and they live next door and they're not related.
Isn't
You know?
it? It's
Yeah.
so weird. It's like, but apparently, so that was Fancy had on, like the Good Wives Network had on one of the first responders. And then because apparently David Blanchard went through the window, the person that was in charge ended up getting let go because clearly that is not what you do on a crime scene. But if you look at the crime scene photos, there's no way, like, he was a very fat man, but like, let's just even take away that fatness. Um, and I'm not trying to be rude to fat people. I'm just not a fan of him.
Right.
But there's no way he got through that window. That window was like piled up to shit with shit. Like
Shite,
she was the one taking care of the house. Her mom was basically bedridden, or maybe she wasn't, but she wasn't able to take care of the house. I mean, it was very clear towards the end that her mom was not able to do a lot of what she was able to do when she was younger. And I mean, keep in mind, like, which we've all said, she was 23. It's not like she's a little baby. Like,
Right,
she
and
was
she
just
was
a
walking.
spoiled, entitled
She
brat.
wasn't rolling around in a wheelchair. She was walking inside the house. The wheelchair was only a prop.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
you've seen, I'm assuming as well, that the actual Dan has come out now.
I've seen that, but I've also seen the doctor that said that her muscles in the lower half of her body were totally normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So she was
you
walking
cannot
around. I mean, she was not
sitting.
playing around in the wheelchair, and her mother did not confine her to a wheelchair inside the house. You know, it was a prop that they used
No, they put
outside.
all their windows. They blacked out their windows. You don't do that. But that being said, they blacked out their windows. But then I feel like it was Dee Dee trying to keep up this
Oh yeah,
facade,
it was a
so to
a
speak.
con job. Yeah.
Because that little B word was the night that Dan got beat up and was in the hospital, and apparently was quite weirded out that she even showed up. She ran down the street to a neighbor's house who has said, like, no, she was just running down, and that's where she ended up being picked up. But to this day, I don't know, like, was it David Blanchard that called Dee Dee and said, yeah, you know, everyone wants this chick out of here kind of thing, come pick up your daughter? Or was it Gypsy being like, this isn't exactly what I thought it would be? I kind of think it's probably the first one. Because, you know, she's guy crazy. And honestly, I would be very scared if I was with Ken. Or with Ken. I would be scared then.
If you were Ken,
But I
yeah.
would be very scared. Did you know she put out to two different conspiracy who is in the chat that I'm in, and then also Ash Too Trippy. So two different content creators, and she wanted to dox Ken's
but I think that's a
ex-fiance.
lie. I think it's all a lie. I don't think that woman exists. Like if
Maybe
she
she
does,
doesn't.
because where is she? I've said it a million times. Where
I
is she?
don't disagree with you. I don't think Ken is, and like, I could care less. Like, most of my guy friends are gay. I could care less if someone's straight, gay, but like,
Right.
there's nothing for me.
Nothing wrong
I
with that.
don't
Yeah.
care, but I do not think he's fully as invested into this relationship as her.
Right. Right. I have a token here, but anyway, yeah, that's fine. If it's, I mean, it's nothing. I mean, he should be comfortable with who he is, but I don't believe he had a girlfriend for 5 years.
No, I mean, but if he did, like, let's say it was like
If he
much
did, I
younger,
don't
like
think
high
Gypsy would be
school.
giving out. Like, I think Gypsy would be so jealous and feeling so paranoid that he would go back to her, because if that story is true and he was with this other woman for 5 years, okay, well, obviously he must feel something with her to be with her 5 years, okay? And then if they had just broken up and then literally within 6 weeks he gets with Gypsy, how does she not know? Well, what if he has second thoughts? Like, I want to get out of this circus and go
This
back.
whole story seems like, I understand, like, he's younger than her. She's 33. I'm 38. So, like, I think he's 31. So, like, let's give some grace time underneath that. So you're basically talking about like a high school like relationship here. Like, even if it was a relationship, really, like, this is not.
Yeah, but there's no trace of it. Come on now. This is like just
I
so
know. I
ridiculous that
agree
there's
with
no
you
trace of it. I'm
100%.
sorry. I'm not buying
I
it. I
totally
don't buy
agree with
it.
you. I mean, there's been way more evidence. And again, do not care if he wants to be with men. I
More power to
really
it. Yeah,
could
it's
care
his choice.
less.
It's his deal. Yeah. But I don't believe it. I do not believe it. And I believe that because she's so forthcoming with the evidence of this, which she's trying to create, and I mean, like, just his mother, you got his mother's word or something. They lied. They
No,
lied that
because
they
they
weren't
always
together.
know.
The mother totally lied because they were together. Then they get the husky tattoos. I mean, it's just, come on. Yeah, you both, then they
I
would be
don't try.
totally.
I think I've said this to you in your comments, and I'm not reading the chat. So if anyone's listening to me, thank you for listening to me, and thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome.
But the one thing that I really don't like is, I just get this vibe. I've worked in a lot of rescues, volunteered with animals a lot, and I don't think she's very good with animals at
No,
all.
I don't think so. I don't think she cares about. I don't see a psychopath or a sociopath doesn't know what love is. That's the whole thing. They don't. They don't
But
know what love is, not even for their own
yeah,
children. That's why so
but
many
Dee
of them
Dee
can so
did. Like,
easily
Dee Dee
kill their own
was
children without any remorse.
absolutely, but Dee Dee didn't have that. Like, she seemed like nice. Like, she would always
Yeah. I
do
don't think
things
Dee
for
Dee.
the
I don't think Dee
family,
Dee was a
and
psychopath or a sociopath. I think Dee Dee loved Gypsy. I think everything she did for Gypsy.
too much so.
Yes, but what
But
Gypsy is like, Gypsy is the opposite. She's doing anything for Gypsy, and that's it.
But once that, I mean, because you have children, I don't. But that as soon as that window, that very small window of the time that you give birth to, like, when it's not all about you anymore, which I'm assuming is when you give birth, um, I don't know how she's going to deal with that.
No, she's gonna be, because like, it's always gonna be about her. It's gonna be about her. I don't think she's going to handle that well. It's just, I don't. That's why I think Christy's going to end up with this baby. Just like how she told somebody, "Oh, I can go to Spain with you. I'll just get a sitter for the baby." And most new mothers would be like, "I'm not just going to go off on another country after my baby's born and leave my baby with some sitter,
She
right?"
thinks she's going to be able to willy-nilly. First of all, our country, aka Canada and the UK, I'm from both. You're never coming in our country because people with DUIs can't even come in. So She's certainly not going to be able to, especially with her profile. And I don't know about some of these other, like, they make this shit up as they go in their head, because there's a lot of countries. It's not just about the crime she's committed, but it's what she's done since she's been released.
Yeah, I just, I don't know. She's something.
On another note to that idiot, the person that I do truly feel the utmost just sympathy for is Nick. I think we can all agree with that. There is Natasha Cooper backed out of it. Surprise, surprise. But I obviously can't attend because I don't live in the States and I can't take time off work. So I'm hoping that there's going to be some sort of like a sign up, or it'll be like someone will be doing it online, but it's in, I want to say October 18th. But I really want the people that are writing to the Supreme Court Justice and everybody that's trying to make a difference, I really want it to go to the right places, because I don't know, like this Cornerstone, NPG Cornerstone, which Nick has said he has not been affiliated with. I thought he was. I put out that name. I, sent it out on my own personal stuff, because I really do think that he deserves a shot. Why are we even fighting for this? Like, he should have had an advocate for autism, but also for being mentally handicapped. He should have had an advocate there. Even
right,
like the police interrogation, that could have been thrown out. And what Fancy was saying the other day was, when they show all of the interrogation, that female detective actually knew going into it that he did have autism and that he was really in love with Gypsy. So yes, they can lie. Yes, they can manipulate situations for a confession. However, she knew that she was dealing with somebody who doesn't think like you or I think. And she kept going. And that, a lawyer in his weight and salt could have had that thrown out. Like, even it got to the point where the prosecution was saying to Nick's attorney, do you want to bring in mental health experts? And they did nothing. He's already, I don't know how the guy hasn't been disbarred. He put a guy in jail, like Nick, but he was actually found completely innocent. And that's going to be, I don't know if it is a lawsuit at this point. I know it is going to become a lawsuit if it isn't, but like, it's scary. Like, these people are they're just washed under the rug because nobody cares, because, who cares if a Nick Godejohn, if he spends his life in prison, who cares about that? I don't agree with that. I think that's disgusting. I think one life is deserving of another. If anything, between the two of them, she should have been the one that was in jail.
Right. I think she should be in jail, yeah. I'm just going to say the chat, Rosemary D'Alessandro will be live tomorrow at that link on Facebook to answer questions. John had sent me a message and wanted me to share that. So, I hope that you guys follow that, and I'm going to just put it on the community post too. Sorry, I just had to do something because Rosemary D'Alessandro is live. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm
I just,
wondering why
it's
she's
very
laying.
sad, but you know what comes in more into this case, and it comes in more even than the DA and what was going on in that town at that, what was happening, and that they didn't want to, upset a bunch of people with the amount of fraud that was going on, because that was a big part of it. But it was also the fact that they could just rub their hands together and, oh, it's this outsider. It's this kid who's, you know, I mean, I don't believe you, like any of us that know that people have mental disabilities, we know that that isn't the case. But if it's easier for people to be like, oh, wow,
Well, look at
it's
that
just
poor
some
kid that they
outsider,
did on that making a murderer thing. That poor kid, Brendan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's still in, and they were supposed to be getting him out. Uh-oh. We lost her. Uh-oh, we lost Sarah. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to write this about Joan's Joy. I'm trying to tag them. What, Joan? How come their organization is not coming up? Joan's Joy. Oh, boy. Does anybody know? Oh, dang. Okay. That I know that is not that. That's not their YouTube. Oh, there it is. I got the right one. Okay. All right. So let me just post that real quick. So yeah, Sarah, I don't know what happened to you. Anybody else that wants to call in, you can call in. I'm gonna go just check something over here to see what's going on. But Gypsy has laid pretty low today. Could it be that she's at Ken's? I don't know. Doesn't want to come on. Could it be that she's doing a bunch of social media campaigns? People are talking about like her getting engaged. No, that was a rumor. She said that. She did say, this is my Amazon storefront. Many influencers have one, and most of the stuff I bought or will buy, unless you're an influencer, you won't know that. Okay, so she has an Amazon referral link and a storefront, so that's what she's doing. She said she doesn't have any GoFundMes or registries. And let's see. What else did she get? October 18th is when they're going to have the support rally for Nicholas Godejohn. That's at the Supreme Court Capitol Building in Jefferson City, Missouri. Let's see, I guess Ryan has been live. He was live 6 hours ago. Let's see if he said anything. He said that people said he was deflecting, not answering any serious questions. He did say that it would be funny if he turned out to be the biological dad and all that time was wasted on a gender reveal and the baby shower and ultrasounds. He makes polls for questions. Said he's a special education teacher, shows Pixie. He talks about his jerseys and how he deserves better, whatever. And that was the one, that he was the one that was there for Gypsy when no one else, not even Christy, was. He said he knew that Christy and Ken were talking right after Gypsy was released from prison. Let's see. He said Steve Wilco sent him a message and he's contemplating on whether or not he should go on there. He doesn't think he should, but he made a poll. People said yes. Okay. see what else is going on. Oh, Sarah's back. Say hi. When was that?
Can you hear me okay?
Now I can. What? Yeah, you fell off.
Oh, so my apologies. I was like talking away. I'm like, this is like whenever I do a Zoom call, this is like normally what ends up happening, but it's normally work related. Case in point why I write things down all the time. But no, I do think it's really sad for, what is happening with Nick. And I also think that it is a little weird now that I'll leave this answer to you, but if you really believed in a cause, which I do believe we both believe that Nick didn't get a fair trial.
Right.
If Natasha was really that keen on what she says, why now is she pulling out of all this bullshit? And
I think I know. She doesn't like to be, I don't think she wants to be seen.
No, and she was charging a bunch of people to have the documents for.
Right, but I don't think she wants to go out with a bunch of people.
And I agree, but she was the one that originally did
She
it.
said, but see, maybe you don't realize she also said she was going to go down to the laundries. If you remember Gabby Petito, Brian Laundry, she said she was going to go do that. She said she was going to do a lot of things and never did them.
Which I understand. Like, I can get having social anxiety. You know what I mean? Like, I totally understand that, but it also does come across sometimes as, specifically when other people get involved, like Fancy, even if you don't get along, you would think like, okay, put your everything to the side, and that's the biggest thing that I've said when I've been commenting on creator stuff recently and they've been rude to one another, unless someone's just awful, is that everyone's got the same common goal here. And it's to get somebody who should have never had a platform and should have never gotten money from that platform, should not be having their child on that platform. Like that's, we'll see how it all ends up going. But I do work for, I work for a social services network that works with young moms, and it's more the educational piece for them. But it wasn't even Bree's thing, but it was somebody else's. And I just kind of made a comment, was like, if you're going to be influenced by whomever, not whomever, we all know who it is in this case, it's Gypsy. I'm just at a loss to these content creators, and not content creators, but like these people who are giving her free stuff. I don't understand it.
Well, I think a lot of them don't even either vet it, or they're told they've been sent a press letter and it goes to their media department and it probably says, this is they probably call her a celebrity influencer. She was a victim of Munchausen's by proxy, and she is starting her life over. She knows Kim Kardashian, like all this stuff. And they're just reading this, and probably, like you just think that everybody knows who Gypsy Rose is, just like we used to think everybody had to know who Chris Watts is. And if you did a survey in your local grocery store, you find out about 9 out of 10 people have no idea. Okay?
What's funny is that the whole Munchkin
Munchausen's.
Munchkin. I love I always say Munchkin by proxy. It sounds cuter. But it's so. There was a Dr. Phil. I have zero respect for his interview with her,
Dr.
but
Phil,
there's
neither a doctor nor
yeah, he's getting canceled out of here. No one wants his crapola anymore. There have been interesting things that I do find interesting, but even me with some of the serial killer stuff, like when the Jeffrey Dahmer stuff came out and his dad was on, yeah, it's interesting to watch. However, I don't agree with I don't even he's always got to push an agenda, which is
he's always got his little fake like his already made slogans, like
I'm surprised he didn't get
I just gave you the canvas. Like, I mean, he's always got something.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Phil.
It's
my
like corny
life
dad
is the
jokes
canvas.
or something. They're all ready, and they're he's just a cliche.
Yeah, it's always pushing his family's crap. Yeah. And it's sad.
Where's my beautiful wife here? Why don't you show her that come on.
Is she there, or is that the robot that got their face freaking? And I actually think Robin does a lot of good stuff, and I think she's a pretty person, but I think she destroyed her face, and it's very sad. But he has a lot of stuff.
Uh-oh, you put yourself on mute again. Uh-oh, you put yourself on mute again.
Here, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can, yes.
Okay, I will not piss off the Dr. Phil fans here. But it was very clear that when she had her interview with him in the jail, and that's another goddamn thing too. Sorry for anyone, I'm not meaning it like goddamn, but that's another thing. When he went into the jail, why would he allow that time? Like, that's something that not all prisoners get.
Wait, so who went into the jail? Dr. Phil?
Yeah, like all of it. Like, they were filming Lifetime inside the prison.
Right. Yeah, I mean, well, she got special handling.
I actually kind of felt bad. I don't know. Well, you have TikTok, but I felt bad for the girl that was her. She seems like she's just one of those women that is, I don't know what she went to jail for, but she seems like she is a very nice person. And she had no idea who she met when she met Gypsy Rose Blanchard. And I think a lot of people who have any sort of, how do I say this in the nicest way I can, have any, I don't want to say a chip on your shoulder, but you're good at reading people, Right. I think you would see right through her. But Gypsy, she puts on, so was Rachel, her ex-bunkie Rachel. And so I added her on TikTok. I only have TikTok for true crime stuff. And I actually really didn't want to get it. I just did for that. But I was watching this interview and Starlight was on it, and there was a whole bunch of creators, and there's two things I think that you'll find very interesting. First, she was like, yeah, I thought I knew her so well. They were there for like less than 2 months together. So
everybody wants their 15 minutes. Everybody wants their 15 minutes.
Do you know what she said to her? She said, and this is in the TikTok, which was live shotted. Nina was in it too. And she told, and this just goes to show you what kind of a weirdo creepazoid that we're talking about here with Gypsy. She wanted, when her friend got out, to have relations with her boyfriend. She's now married, so this is a different person. And she wanted her to call her and do that over the phone. Like, she had known this person for 2 months. I don't even care. I've known people for like 15 years and I wouldn't ask that. That's weird.
Right. Yeah.
But that's the kind of person we're talking about here. And also, another thing she said was when they were in that jail prior to their sentencing, she was like throwing stuff over the fence. She was like writing stuff on the side of because they're where Nick was being housed and where she was being housed were, I guess, like they knew when, like, they were kept away from each other, but they knew like when the guys would be coming through.
Yeah, but I heard that wasn't true, that was shown in the act, and it wasn't true that Gypsy and Nick were never housed near each other.
See, but the person that said it was one of the correctional officers. So I have to believe that myself. And again, I would have to do my own research to know like where these are. But when it comes to the act, when it comes to any of the what people say are documentaries, and I'm putting quotations around that, they're not. Like the act, I mean, I don't think they could have come up with.
Oh, you put yourself on mute again.
Okay, you are now. I am putting my face so far across. I think the act absolutely couldn't have been more fitting for what had happened. And that's what is so frustrating when people are like, oh, well, have you seen that documentary? And I'm like, oh, yeah, which one? The act. Did you also see the other documentary of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Like, what?
Right. I think it has its place. You can watch
Absolutely.
it. It's not a documentary, but I believe the actress did speak to Gypsy in prison about things in that case, and I think I don't know, just. It's not correct from the beginning. It's a female neighbor that goes into the house, not anybody, not David Blanchard, but you can watch it. I mean, still, even the documentary Mommy, Ted, and Dearest, you have Christy and Rod controlling that narrative. And
Absolutely.
So that's not true either. So, yeah, it's with Dee Dee.
It's sad, too, because, like, this I do not know, so this could be completely because there's so many lies, right, that come out. That the necklace that was found on Dee Dee is around her stepmom's neck.
Is around what?
Her stepmother's neck.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But, I mean...
I don't know that either. But again, there's just, like, that's where it needs to... Okay, there's enough speculation, enough bullshit. Like, at the end of it, like, they just released the first book from the First Wives Network, and I'm interested in reading it. And they're going to write several others, and one is going to be just dedicated on Nick. And I really hope that I don't have to say this, but I am going to email it. I really hope that all proceeds of that book go towards his legal defense, like so that he could get not like, I'm not saying that those lawyers that are, that you get, like that they're bad lawyers. They're just not, you get what you pay for, right?
Well, I don't know. Some people get some public defenders that who is it that just had a public defender that
Oh, you're talking about the Idaho 4. Because she's doing a great job with the 4 homicides.
I really wasn't, but there's another one, but there's another person that got a public defender who's a really, really good attorney. And how did they get them? Yeah, so it doesn't always,
No, I agree. It isn't always. However, I do think that, we've got the Innocence Project, and I know it's not the same one that's doing the Scott Peterson trial.
No.
But if they're going to represent somebody like that, who there is quite I was very young when that case was, he's been in prison quite a long time, and I would love to, I've watched a few things on it, but I by no means am know enough to speak to it. But if people can go to bat for him, why wouldn't they go to bat for a guy? Yes, he was 23. I mean, Scott Peterson was a hell of a lot older than that, but he was actually mentally challenged, and Scott was not.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping maybe a lawyer will pick it up. Somebody, Sarah Boone's gone through what, 10?
9. She got her 9th lawyer.
How did...
Uh-oh, you muted yourself again.
How did she get another lawyer? I thought she had to go by herself.
This lawyer actually, I believe, sought her out. He felt I think this lawyer feels he's going to get a lot of good press with this. Good people are going to know who he is. I think that's why he took it. He said that she needed representation, and he was going to do it. So.
That's insane, because she did this to her.
Not intentionally.
No, it's only
not intentionally. Not intentionally. They were having a good day. They were coloring. They were coloring, listening to music, and then they were going to paint and then play hide and seek.
Yeah, it's going to be a real hard battle for her, because not a lot of crimes is it where it's actually on camera, somebody filming you committing the crime. But the one thing, okay, just to end off with the Gypsy thing, the one thing that I do find interesting is and I guess it's more for people who are better with, because apparently there really wasn't much from the medical examiner, but the body itself wasn't decomposing. It was I've seen the pictures. I really wish I would have kind of gotten, it's my own fault, that trigger warning. I was in the bath and I was flipping along the pictures, and I'm an idiot. And then the picture of the neck. So this goes as anyone listening, if you're going along like me, just stop and don't go.
Oh, you muted yourself again. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. You're so far away from my mouth now. It's my phone whenever it goes against my cheek, but
you got to be careful with crime scene photos. Yeah.
Well, it's all on Google now. Ever since her birthday, when I don't know who put them on. Oh, they were online for a long time, but on her birthday or whatever. So I just didn't think they were going to be quite as graphic as they were. And they were. However, take all that out. There was some really good points made while I was driving to work. I was listening to it, and she, the skin color was very white, and it was very like it's very difficult to determine the like when, like, obviously you can tell like there were stab wounds that due to the like deeper wounds that she had, and then like Nick said he only did 4 wounds, and I believe Nick. I mean, when you're watching him in his interrogation, it's very obvious when he's lying and when he's not. And the only time, I think it's 1 or 2 times, um, when they say something about, the rape thing, that's something. Or I'm sorry, everyone. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, when that question came up, but that never happened. He had no idea what they were talking about. That was all her. That was all her.
Oh, yeah.
And I had no idea, like, who would make that? Like, that's like extra level psychotic, you know?
Yep. I hear you. But
well, it was lovely to talk.
Yeah, it was lovely to talk to you. I'm going to go over some of these.
Yes, yeah, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
and
thanks for coming up.
Yes, and hopefully anyone there. I apologize if I ever said the wrong thing, and lovely to chat with you all.
That's okay. Thanks for coming up. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay, so I'm going to look at some of these text messages between Gypsy, that we've gone over these in the past, but I just want to go over a few of them that I think, in light of the autopsy and all of that stuff being out there, that, let me grab my files here. I just want to do this. Come on. There we go. Okay. To go to right here. Gypsy, Gypsy, Gypsy. Gypsy and Nick texts. Here we go. Okay. Those are the ones that I want. Okay, so they're going to open up. So on Wednesday, what do these start? Hold on. All the way back here. Wednesday, May 27th. Gypsy says, "What was it for, hun?" And Nick says, "That was my evil side who did that, you know. My good side would never call you that, hun. Maybe a biatch when you're being one, but that is all, hun." And then he says, "Well, it's all true, hun, and it was about voices in my head. And instead of getting rid of them, they became part of me, baby." He also continues in the next text. "How it works is based on my thoughts and feelings, dear. Depends on what part of me shows, honey." And then Gypsy says, "I understand, hun." And then she says, "But that don't mean I don't understand you. I do." He says, "Well, maybe after I explained it, you understand, sweetie. Otherwise, no one else understands, hun." She says, "Well, I do you understand me and my different ways." That makes sense. He says, "Well, we're supposed to understand each other if we just know how to express each other, dear." Gypsy says, "Sometimes I'm too expressive, LOL." He says, not really, because expression involves details, and you know I'm better at that, hun. She says, yes, you are, but I too want everything you do too. He says, what do you mean? She says, everything you said you want, I want it too. Of course, she's mirroring him. She's telling him that she's interested in everything he is. She's grooming this guy to be together, she says. He says, honey, this is where we're different, though. I don't just want everything with you, but I need everything with you for me to feel complete, sweetheart. She says, I need you too. Promise me the good part of you will never die. And then she says, by the way, I'm on Facebook too. He says, really, dear? Because at times I wonder if you need me. And then he says, baby, it could never die. And then she says, I do need you. It kills me to make you have to be on these ups and downs. He says, honey, would you mind using a sweet name every once in a while? It helps me remember I'm worshipped, hun. She says, sure, sweetie. He says, that's better, dear. Then Gypsy says, it's not that I don't worship you. I do, baby, I do, and I look forward to being with you. I'm just dealing with everything changing, hun. Nick says, about you or exactly what changes, dear? And she says, the change that's coming. And she says, darling, I'm scared. And then he says, scared of what, my love? She says, of everything. Gypsy says, I'm not good with change, baby. He says, everything, sweetheart. We both have that in common when it has to do with moving, dear. Gypsy says, I'm going to be okay. I just need to calm down and take a breath. But darling, my feelings for you will never change. I'm yours, and you do make me happy. Nick says, I hope they never change because you scare me at times, dear. I hope so, honey, because I put my mind, this is Nick again, heart and soul into being with you and making you happy, sweetie. Gypsy says, my feelings won't change. And though I have freakouts, okay, there's her freakouts, I always come back to you. See, this is the same thing Ryan mentioned, how she throws them away and then throws them off a cliff and checks back on them. My love, I'm so sorry I scared you. I'll give you lots of love in the hotel, baby. He says, well, that's reassuring, dear. I needed that. After doing what my evil side said, hun, that he says, and then she says, I'm reassured you on Facebook too, hun. Yes, baby. So she has other posts on Facebook that we haven't even seen. Then Gypsy says, I wore myself out with being emotional. So that means she was flipping out, right? She was out of her skull. He says, it's true, dear. I'm guessing you have a correlation to that when I said it, dear. He says, it's true, dear. Okay, they put that in twice. And then she says, sorry, hon, I took a nap. Yeah, right, she took a nap. He said, I thought you did, dear. She says, I hope you feel better now, hun, because I do. He says, I just needed to be reassured, hun. She says, okay, darling. Well, I love, adore, and worship you, my everything, and I'm not giving up. And then she puts XOXOXOXOXO. Then he says, that's music to my ears, sweetie. She says, big smile. He says, dear, will there be less of those freakouts in person? She says, yes, darling. When we're together, I will be a lot more relaxed. Mostly because we can use hugs, kisses, and body language to prevent it, the freakouts, okay? And he says, true, and sex will relieve us of the stress, dear. She says, LOL, that too, hon. He says, yes, dear. She says, a lot of our problems are we don't have physical relationship, hon, so it's hard, hon. He says, true. I suppose most of our problems are physical related, dear. She says, and I want you to know, being with me won't be hell. It will be much better, sweetie. Oh my goodness. He says, when exactly, dear, since you got me curious? She says, well, I'm going to start now, but it'll be way better when we see each other, hun. He says, all right, dear. She says, do I make you happy? He says, well, you don't have your when you don't have your freakouts. Yes, dear. She says, maybe you might like me better in person. She says, by the way, I'm afraid of bugs, just so you know, hun. He says, bugs? Dear, there is no reason for that. And you know I'll worship you either way, whether in person or from afar. She says, I'm just letting you know my phobia. It's bugs and spiders. She says, I always feel like crap after I freak out because you're caught in the middle. Freakouts. I can't even stay an hour away from me, you. That's Gypsy. He says, and spiders, that's also something harmless to you most of the time, hun. He says, it's meant to be that way, dear. She just says, it's my fears, hun. So, this is Gypsy again. So you take your little creepy buggy friends and escort them out the house. He says, exactly, dear. And then he says, and don't worry about bugs. They're harmless, hun. She says, so we're all cool, sweetheart? He says, yes, hun. It's just your freakouts. They scare me, honey. She says, we have that in common, hun, so they scare her too. He says, of course we do, dear. That was on May 27th. On the 28th, she says, we are all lovey again, my cutie pie. So she's worried that, he's freaked out from the freak out. Maybe he won't do this. I don't know. He says, that's great news, my Ellie. She says, oh, my dear, can't meet me on Facebook, my love. He says, hun, I'm glad you picked up on that reference. Hold on. Okay, and then she says, LOL, nice job. Cap up. He says, I knew you would catch onto it, dear. She says, darling, will you tell me the movie you want to watch with me yet? He says, oh, on the same one I have as a surprise, my dear. It's a surprise. She says, really? LOL, OMG. Do you have it? He says, no, but we'll buy it together, sweetie. She says, oh, hun, I'll show you a YouTube clip of a TV show. Would you tell me if you would watch it with me, hun? He says, well, I have to see the clip first, dear. Then Friday, May 29th. She says, hey, handsome. He says, hey, gorgeous. She says, drool makes you horny, LOL. She says, you're weird. Then he says, baby, you'll understand when you experience it. She says, darling, I'm safe. She says, long story, but a tornado warning was issued. He says, that's good news, dear. She says, darling, can you please meet me online? We need to talk about our plan. He says, okay, honey. She says, I'm still daddy's girl. Hold me. And yes, it's Kitty, daddy. He says, baby, why don't you answer daddy before, as I told you, in my lap? She says, I was taking tummy meds to make me feel better, so I put my phone down. Saturday, May 30th. He says, okay, honey, just never change on daddy because I never want you to be anything but daddy's everything as I rock you back and forth in my arms on my lap. She says, I won't change, daddy. I curl into your shoulder and cuddle. He says, I keep rocking you back and forth in my arms on my lap. Are you the same daddy's girl that I reminded you of being in the past year? And then she says, hey, baby. She says, darling, does your house have any kind of car? I'm looking on Google Maps. He says, dear, it depends on how updated their world map is. Last time I looked, it wasn't the right vehicle. She says, wow, it's a small place, LOL. He says, yes, it's small to a degree. She says, I looked at the population and it's smaller than the smallest town I've lived in. I thought 7,800 was small. He says, like I said, it used to be a village, now it's a town. She says, I'll adjust, LOL. She says, because besides smaller is less trouble. He says, I hope so, because it should be easy one to transcend to, hun. She says, are you ready, like in all ways, hun? He says, what do you mean, dear? She says, for me. He says, if I wasn't, I wouldn't be so eager to be living with you, dear. She says, I was supposed to get pregnant in a week and a half. He says, okay, hun, so what are you saying? She said, I just feel sad, I'm not. He said, okay, I see, hun. She said, part of me is really worried about my tube. She says, what if I could have it taken out? She said, what if I could have it taken out being pregnant? He says, you said you would have it taken out. She said, could you wait like 10 months for plan B? He says, so you want me to get you pregnant again? She says, I'm getting it changed, hun. He says, oh, because for a second I thought you wanted me to get you pregnant again, dear. She says, I was just wondering, does Big Bend have a hospital? Besides, I'm late on my period. He says, no. He says, okay. She says, gotcha. He says, when? She says, let's move to Milwaukee. We can stay with your mom for a little. He says, Milwaukee, I'd rather be living in Waukesha, hon. She says, okay, darling, we can look up apartments in Waukesha. And with the $5,000 I have, we will be set. He says, good idea, dear. She says, I don't need to marry you to live with you. So we can take our time with the wedding. I saw Waukesha, looks beautiful. And I can paint and sell my art, Gypsy said. Her art. He says, dear, I know that you mean R5000. True, baby? She said, yes, R, darling. And then she said, and who knows, maybe after a while we can have a ceremony like a wedding, hun. You would make a handsome groom, she says. He says, and well, live in my birth city, hun. We'll live in my birth city, hun. Hopefully live close to Woodman so we could get our groceries extremely cheap, dear. Waukesha would be a dream come true, sweetheart, Gypsy says. He says, hun, we're still going to follow our kind's traditions, though, dear. She says, of course, darling. He says, I look forward to it, my dear. She says, I look forward to it. Cuddles. She says, I dreamt about it. She says, and you gave me oral. He says, maybe so. I look forward to kissing you, and I will do it in the future. She puts blushes. He says, well, it's true, baby. She says, will you give me my first orgasm soon, my love? Will you finger me on the bus? I desire pleasure too, hun. He says, hun, I may be naughty on the bus. It just depends on the moment. Depends on how naughty, hun. She says, well, I'm going to teach you. Of course she is. And I'm going to kiss you too, everywhere. Then he says, dear, I may give you permission. She says, good, darling. He says, as for the kissing, you can do that on my body, sweetie. She says, the first movie I want to watch is 50 Shades of Grey. I also think we should start with, oh my gosh, soft, wet A sex before big time A. Wow. She says, let's talk on Facebook. He says, dear, I'll watch that with you to get us in the mood, which depends on the time. It could be a later movie, dear. He says, as for A, don't worry about that because it's my job as your master to, dear. She says, you make my girly parts tingle. Oh gosh, Gypsy. He says, I'm glad because I'm supposed to, hun. She says, I'm thinking about you in a naughty way. He says, that's good. Dead Sunday, May 31st. You're a great daddy, and thank you for doing the worst for the best of us, Gypsy said. You're welcome, my dear. She says, looking at your movie likes and music, we couldn't be more opposite. She says, I like country, you like metal. She says, I like drama, you like comedy. She says, goodness, this is awkward. Well, I'll expand my interests. He says, those are just a few of them. She says, I do like animated ones. He says, we have more in common than you think. She says, darling, please read what I said. He said, okay, hun. Then she says, good morning, my love of my life. She says, I'm going to start wearing a ring because I want to feel married to you. So one of my rings from the girly shop Claire will do. Okay, hun. Sorry I didn't answer until now, he said. She says, I need to tell you a secret, hun. He says, go ahead, dear. She says, I never stopped sucking Pediasure from a baby bottle, but she puts bottle, B-O-D-D-L-E, for bottle. He said, baby, I already knew that. She said, you know? How? He says, baby girl, seriously, do you not understand that I'm with you spiritually? I experience everything with you, dear. That's why there is no point in hiding things from me. She says, okay, hun. Are you with me when I'm naked? She said, I'm going to church, hun. He says, okay, hun, and I'm with you at all times. She says, darling, I'm with the plan. I'm 100% with the plan. He says, what do you mean, dear? She says, I'm in for it, hun. No doubts, she said. He says, okay, darling. She says, that's all just okay? I was expecting, joy, I guess. He says, dear, of course I'm happy. She says, and did she really go to church and then say this? She says, okay, good, sweetie. What's your stepdad's name, just so I know? He says, Charlie. That's what it is, hun. She says, okay, darling, cool. He says, yes, dear. She says, please be online. He says, okay, darling, June 1st. Gypsy says, so you won't end this? He says, I'm not saying anything. Besides, it's a waste of time. She says, get your arse back now. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to rip you a new one. This is Gypsy. He says, that's not worth it. I always fight for us. It's your turn for once. She says, me? How the hell am I going to fight if it's one-sided? What will I wear to impress your folks? I'm going to go with you. Then he says, I told you, I'll let you know in person. He says, why do you say that way? She says, I'm me again. I'm sorry, my love. He says, dear, you gave me another scare. She says, oh, well, good night, hun. I don't know what's wrong with me. That's Gypsy. Do you know? She says. He says, come on, baby. I know you can bond with me better than that. I love, adore, and worship you, my dear. True love. She says, I just did it online. At the same time. I didn't mean it when I called a life with you trash. That's Gypsy. She called life with him trash. He says, dear, it's about this sex like I told you before. The sooner I give you an orgasm, the sooner you go back to your lovey-dovey happy self, hun. He says, but I just said it back to you, sweetie. Please say it back, sweetie. She says, so sex is like a tranquilizer, LOL? He says, baby, someday you'll know how important it is in our life. She says, just forget all I said tonight. He says, why you say that? She says, I never meant any hurtful thing. I'm in self-destruction mode. When I'm like that, ignore me. He says, well, all I could do is hope you come back, honey. She says, I want to be with you. He says, I know, dear, you scared me, though. I thought I lost you. She said, you almost did. She said, I think I'm bipolar. Wow. He says, what? Baby, I don't want to lose you because you told me that I could never lose you. Now I worry I will. She says, well, it's more I would push you away until you walked away. I can't leave, but I can make you leave. He says, baby, is that supposed to be comforting? She says, in a way, yes, hun. He says, please don't push me away too hard, hun. She says, is there medication for bipolar, hun? He says, baby, if I did let you take medication for that, are you thinking it would help? She says, ow, massive migraine. I'm not sure it could be the distance, because I would have jogged to Wisconsin that night I met you. He says, so are you saying it will get better once we're in person? Yes, darling, that's exactly what I'm saying, she said. She said, if you still have mood swings, she said, I'll still have mood swings, just not severe ones like tonight. He says, baby, please say it because I'm worried still. And it would be nice to know to be comforted right now. She says, sweetie, please don't be worried. I'm not going anywhere. Well, I'm going with you, but I mean by your side, hun. She says, the ups and downs will balance out with us being together in person. He says, you know what I want to do after tonight. Scare, hun? She says, have sex. LOL, nudges your arm. He says, baby, do you remember the tangled posts I gave you a while ago? The tangled posts. She says, of course, hon. He says, you want to, and she said, you want to hit me with a frying pan? He says, I want to do that right now just so you know, just so I know you aren't going anywhere. Yes, the tangled posts when both tied each other up. I wish I could do that to you now so you'd be stuck with me. She says, you are with a little red string, kisses your forehead. He says, how, hon? She says, we're tied together by our souls and hearts. I might tie you up in a kinky way, LOL, she said. He says, honey, I'm warning you, though, if you give me a scare like that in person, I will tie you up until I'm sure you aren't going anywhere. Because I want to make sure we never part, dear. She says, I won't do it in person. You're all I have in this life. Hi, sweetie, she says. I got rest and I'm myself again, baby. This is June 2nd. She says, I'm 100% in, hun. I'm ready, truly. He says, why do you say that, baby? She says, because I finally allowed myself to accept you're my everything. I will go with you and live our dream. He says, okay, hon. She says, darling, I am so sorry about last night. I'm completely different and I'm your woman. Okay, dear, he said. And she said, I will be truly your everything. She says, I know it's been up and down, but darling, in 9 days, I'm yours forever. He says, true, hun. She says, true, baby. And yes, I'm going to fight like hell for us, baby, she says. Do you forgive me, darling? He says, baby, you have a couple of questions to answer online. Please, please read, hun. He says, okay, dear. She says, by the way, I trashed my old, slow, broken laptop. So she trashed the laptop. She says, so we can just use one computer together, hun. Because she didn't want him on her computer. He says, dear, I answered you, and what about all the memories of us on your computer, sweetie? She says, I saved them, but F you. You don't get it, do you? Wow, that escalated quickly. Never mind, she said. He says, dear, what the heck? She says, I tried being there for you. All you do is make me try. I give everything for you, she's saying. And he says, I was trying to be nice when explaining to myself that you say that, dear. That was uncalled for. Explaining, she says, I always put my best. And you say 90% bullshit. He says, baby, I don't only make you cry. I have given you plenty of happy memories. She says, who puts up with your overbearing ways, your ridiculous political shite? He says, dear, I'm not trying to argue with you, so please stop. She says, I was in a romantic mood. Now you screwed that to hell. He says, well, sorry, I'll leave you alone. All you do is push me away. She says, sadly, 10 minutes ago, all I wanted to do was snuggle with you. He says, dear, just stop talking to me. You're only going to make things worse, since apparently now I know I can't open up to you just because of that you keep biatching. She says, I opened up. I was what you wanted, and you pushed me away. He says, you told me to F off. I guess I'm your punching bag. She says, why couldn't you have first been loving? I'm sorry, hun. This is her again. Look, please don't fight. That's her again. Again, she says, just try and understand. I was saying how much I need you. And you basically called me a faker. He says, I didn't push you away. All I did was explain. You told me off. If that is how you feel, then I guess I can't make you happy anymore. Sorry I'm a failure to you. She says, can we please talk online because we're going to be living together soon. Shouldn't we at least try and make this work? She says, you're safe from me now. I did the right thing. She says, then he says, dear, I hope you come back. And then she goes, you are free, sweetie. You don't have a biatch of a girl now. See, she's always doing this crap. He says, free, yes, free to die. Bye, my love. She says, Daddy, Daddy, crying. What do you mean? My love, Nicholas, answer me. He says, sweetie, if Bella doesn't come back, I don't want anyone else, so I'll end it, my darling daughter. Just know that Daddy always worshipped you. See, he said that he was going to kill himself if they didn't kill her mother. That is not true. Okay, and what she said? She said, I don't understand, Daddy. He said, I'm gone. Bye. My everything. I'll miss you all, and it's time to end it all. She said, wait, Daddy, wait. She said, please, end us? She says, you mean you won't be mine anymore? He says, what does my daughter want before I go to hell? She says, I want you to stay with me. You said you were coming to get me. He says, Bella doesn't want me, so no one will have me but her. So I'll go to hell then if I can't have her. She says she does want you. She needs you. You have had lots of girlfriends. You're handsome. He says, I'm done, my love. You said you need me, but you broke us off, so I cut myself off. If you don't stop me in time, because without you, I'm nothing. She says, are you threatening to kill yourself? You can't. He says, why? She says, because if you do, I will as well. He says, then come back because before I do, because you know I always back up my words. She says, please, please don't do it. My love, please, please. He says, I want you. I do, but I'm bad for you. That's her. That's her saying that. She says, stay with me, please. He says, I'm about to put the blade on my wrist and let it bleed if you don't come back within the next 3 minutes. She says, I'm here, my love. I'm back. She says, look, I'm going on Facebook now. He says, then I'll put the blade away for now. She says, you better get online if you mean what you're saying. She says, huge kiss for the one I missed. He says, okay, dear. He says, sweetie, I hope you're on soon because I'm missing you. She says, darling, I'm missing you too. Just let me take a small nap. He says, okay, sweetie, sweet dreams, my darling. She says, darling, I'm on now, but read a message sent on our joint account. She says, it's your cousin. He wants to go fishing. He says, okay, sweetie. Then we're on June 3rd. But I'm just going to see if what's going on with you guys in here. Kevin, that's Christy's wife, wanted Ryan out of the way. He was doing all the contracts for Gypsy. Okay, so the more times I hear, the sicker I feel. The sicker you feel? Okay, I'm sorry about that. Hold on, I just have to get a drink. So I'm gonna put this up here so I can go. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna get to ibuprofen and a drink, and then I'm gonna finish these text messages. I'll be right there. I'm still in the room. Don't worry about it. I haven't left you. I won't leave you, my darling. I won't. I'm coming right back, my dear. I just have to get some ibuprofen. Okay, I'm coming, my dear. Hold on. All right, my dear. Okay. All right, let me read the rest of these things here. Where did these babies open? Oh, they were over here. Okay, so we're on June 3rd still. Hi, darling. I'm sorry I fell asleep last night without telling you good night. That was Gypsy. Nick says, it's all right, hon. He says, I've noticed, though, you're on a lot less than used to be, dear. She says, I explained, hon. She's probably with other guys, okay? She says, I'm on right now, baby. He says, okay, sweetie. June 4th, my birthday. She says, sending hugs and kisses. He says, thanks, sweetie. He says, sweetie. She says, good afternoon, darling. He says, good afternoon, sweetie. She says, oh, I had so many sex dreams of you last night. He says, of all different kinds, dear? She said, yes, darling. He said, okay, sweetie. She said, warning, I'm in a very sexual mood. He said, honey, you could be in a top-notch sexual mood throughout our life together, and it wouldn't bother me. She says, good, darling, you're going to need the energy. He says, why do you say that, baby? She said, you pick it, hun. You pick it, hun. Message for you. He says, babe, I'm already on. I had to restart my computer, dear, he said. She said, okay, darling. June 5th. She says, darling, what color restraints do you want, black or pink? He says, dear, we're collecting them, but get black, sweetie. She says, okay, darling. June 6th. She says, honey, I was wondering, say I wanted to have sex with a guy before leaving town. Could I? I'm just curious. Question. LOL. Okay, so I know you're territorial, but I'm being tempted sexually, she said. Darling, can we talk online, please? I'm guessing you're napping. She's saying all this, not getting any response from him. She says, I thought you wasn't getting my texts, hun. He says, I was. I didn't hear them, though, dear, since my phone was on vibrate. She says, he agreed to meet up. We're going to get coffee at this cupcake place Thursday. So that will close that. She says, it's a public place, so it's all good, hun. He says, dear, still, I told I'll be around in the area of it to make sure he don't do anything, and you have to accept that. She says, okay, darling. She says, what time does our bus leave Thursday, hun? He says, 6:13 p.m., dear. She says, okay, I may be off a few minutes, darling. He says, I may be off a few minutes, darling. She says, okay, hun. She says, I found the flogger. He says, that's good news. Hold on a minute. Okay, it's telling me the Zoom ended. Okay. She says, I miss you, hun, so much. My heart is racing. I miss you, hun, so much. My heart is racing. It's again the same thing. He says, why is your heart racing? She says, because I can't wait to see you. He said, then we feel mutual, dear. She says, darling, you have an important message. He says, okay, baby. June 7th. She says, darling, I was caught on the phone, but made my mom think I was during her phone. I think she means using her phone. She says, so I have to lay low until Wednesday. Yeah, liar. She probably was out with other guys. He says, okay, dear, just try to text me when you can. She says, okay, baby. She says, we can talk on Skype, hun. Please. He says, okay, baby. Monday, June 8th. He says, sweetheart, I just wanted to say that I'm missing you and also that I love, adore, and worship you, my everything. She says, darling, I'm so sorry I didn't say goodnight. I was made to sleep on the front porch with bugs. What a liar. What a liar. She's trying to get him really upset, right? That her mother made her sleep on the front porch with bugs and she's so scared of bugs. Such a liar, Gypsy. She says, I peed in the bushes. It's been rough. Get out of here, Gypsy. You're such a... She says, darling, I'm not even sure of the password, but it's not one angel heart. It would be my name, Gypsy Rose, or one Gypsy Rose. She says, the good thing is you forgot it. At least you have write down confirmation number and the card it was purchased with, hun. They can look it up. It's Gypsy. He says, okay, baby, I was hoping you would have said our sacred words, but thanks for your help, hun. She says, you're welcome, my love. And I will text you, hun. He says, okay, dear. She says, I love, adore, and worship you, my everything. He said, I love, adore, and worship you too, my everything, times infinity. She says, aw. He says, baby, I called the cab company and everything is going well. She says, okay, sweetie, good. I just ate. I feel a lot better now. That's Gypsy. He says, good, honey. She says, I can't believe you were able to go. Was your mom okay with it? He said, dear, it don't matter if she's okay with it or not. I'm my own man, honey. She says, I know, sweetie. If she knows you're escorting me back with you, it should be fine, hun. He said, she'll know within time, honey. She says, okay, darling, you have lots of guts. He says, I told you already, dear, nothing is keeping us from being together. And I meant that when I said it. And she says, so do I. Okay, sweetie, text me soon to give me an update. Okay, so he's on his way. It's on his way, right? Okay. He says, will do, my love. She says, dear, he says, dear, my stepdad is taking me to the bus station. Instead, she says, okay, sweetie. He says, dear, look at your email. I need to know the reference number. She gives him a number. He says, thanks, sweetheart. She says, I got your back, hon. You're welcome. He says, I got your back, too. Update, I'm on the bus station waiting for my time to get on the bus. She says, it is all good. You got the tickets, hon? He said, dear, please go with the story I told my mom and stepdad. She said, yes, dear. He said, yes, dear. She said, please let me know what story. He said, I'll tell you in person, dear, because I'll be able to explain it better then. She said, okay, darling, I'm not going to say a word on Facebook to anyone. He said, that's good, darling. She said, waking up a song on the road to destiny, la, 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 la. He said, interesting, dear. She said, I have been on a bus from Hyannisport to Boston. I enjoyed it, she said. He said, interesting, hun. She said, is Big Ben a safe place to live? He said, darling, you almost never hear of crime in Big Bend. She said, that's wonderful. He said, yes, baby. She said, you think I'm spoiled by how my room looks? A closet full of name brand clothes. She said, you might think I'm spoiled by how my room looks and a closet full of name brand clothes. And he says, I already know you're spoiled, hun. Yeah, what about being abused so badly by Dee Dee, right? She says, LOL. He says, I knew that would make you laugh, dear. She said, my heart is like boom, boom, boom. I don't think it knows how to be calm when you're going to be with me. He said, LOL, that's a good thing, dear. She says, darling, I'm going to go to the ER to get my tube changed. I'll be off my phone for a few hours. Yeah, I wonder what she was really up to. He says, okay, hon, be safe. She says, you too, sweetheart. He says, all right, darling. He says, update, dear, I'm on the bus to Chicago. He says, update, darling, I'm on the way to St. Louis. He says, update, dear, I'm on the bus station at Champaign, Illinois. Hope to be in St. Louis soon. He says, darling, I'm home. She says, that's good, dear. I'm glad you made it. He said it was a 6-hour wait in the ER. She says it was a 6-hour wait in the ER. That's what she was telling the guy, right? That interrogator. And, excuse me. He says, wow. She says, at least it's done. So we're good for a year. She says, it can be done even by me, but I won't unless I have to. I missed you, baby, she said. He said, I missed you too, sweetheart. He said, honey, sorry I didn't answer you right away. I didn't feel it vibrate, dear. Dear, I guess you are either busy or not online anymore, Nick says. I guess you aren't able to keep me company right now. I hope you're back soon because I'm already missing you, hun. Gypsy says, hi, sweetie, I'm here. I just ate and took a bath, hun. Are you listening to your iPod, hun? That's Gypsy. He says, yeah, I'm glad you are. She says, LOL. She says, oh no, baby, I'm just waiting for text from you and paying attention to my surroundings. She says, okay, sweetie, well, I was able to make peace with Mom. He says, I know you would. I believed in you that you could do it. The full time, dear. She said, I feel better. I just can't believe you're like in Missouri, and it's so overwhelming in a good way. He said, I hope in a good way, hun. She says, yes, darling, in a great way, hun. I feel so excited. And he says, I'm glad we feel mutual about the situation, darling. She said, tomorrow is the last night we sleep alone. He said, true, baby. However, I'm going to pay for a night separately. She says, okay, hon. He says, so the night you come to the hotel is another separate night from tomorrow, dear. And he says, darling, as you know, I'm trying to save as much money as I can. She says, I know, baby, and you don't need to pay for me to sleep with you at the hotel. I will sneak with you. He says, I know, dear, that's what I plan on doing. She says, good, hun. He says, dear, don't deny if you even knew that's what I was planning on doing. She says, well, yeah, I'm your girl. Bring me back to your hotel. Wink, wink. He says, with pleasure, my dear. She said, and he says, guess you're busy, hun. And then he said, I guess you aren't able to keep me company now again. I hope you're back soon because I'm already missing you again. She bites her lips and squeaks. She says, I'm back, hun. He says, LOL, nice way to come back, sweetie. The 9th. He says, thanks for the laugh, dear. She says, hey, I can't help it. You're a sweetie. He says, well, then would a sweetheart like a sweetie? She says, I would, sweetie. He says, then ask your daddy politely, sweetheart. She said, may I have daddy's sweetness, please? He said, yes, you may, dear, but warning, once you taste it, you won't want anything else. You'll be so addicted to it, darling. She says, I'm fine with being daddy's little addict. And he said, that's daddy's girl. She said, LOL. He said, why the laughter, hun? She said, because I'm so happy. He said, that's a great reason, dear. She put hearts and a smiley face, and he put LOL and hearts and smiley face. She said, sweetness, I'm going to go take my meds. He said, okay, dear. He said, update, I'm in St. Louis, honey. She said, yay. He said, yes, dear. He said, update, sweetie, I'm about to be on my way to Springfield. And then he said, update, sweetie, I'm on my way to Springfield now. She said, my heart just leapt out now. He goes, why is that, hun? She said, because I want to know. He said, because I want to know why, dear. He said, I hope it's a good reason, dear, or you'll worry me. Please tell me soon, honey. You don't need me worried about you. She said, darling, it's because I'm happy. You're near. She said, I'm perfectly wonderful. He says, oh, dear, I was scared for a moment, but now I'm blissful, sweetie. True, baby, I'm getting close. She said, so am I, darling. He said, great, because that's how I want you, honey. She said, try and get some sleep on the bus, hun. He said, nah, I'll just get it at the hotel, sweetie. She says, okay, darling, well, I'll check back later. I may sleep for a bit. I think you get to town at 5:15. Yeah, she may sleep for a bit. I wonder what she was doing, right? Okay. He says, okay, baby, you know I'll keep you updated. She says, darling, I don't think the hotel takes check-ins until 11. He says, no, they do. I'll just have to pay a bit more, hun. She says, okay, darling, good. By the way, she gives him the taxi number. He says, yes, sweetie, and I'm walking to the hotel. That saves. I've done it before, and it saves money, but thanks for the number. Update, I'm in Springfield, baby. She says, yay. She says, I was asleep, LOL. You at the hotel, hun? He says, yes, sweetie, but it was extra expensive, and that's fine as long as you're safe, sweetie, she says. He says, I'm safe, hun, but I may barely make it to you tomorrow. I'm under 200. She says, you'll make it. How much is a night tomorrow, hun? She says, you're not far from me, maybe 4 minutes. He said, well, I had to pay $140 for one night because I was early, dear. And then she said, unless you want to do it tonight, like the late part of the night, it would have to be. It's the only way to get you money and everything go like we planned, she said. He said, 50 of the dollars I should get back because it's a safety deposit, hun. It's all matters on the soonest you want to see me, hun. She says, tonight, hun, your mom is like pissed and worried. Call her. She messaged me to get you to call her now. He says, I've already talked to her, dear. Everything is fine. You need to answer my question, though, honey. He said, I will text you. We are doing this tonight, hon. It won't be until later, like in the AM time, so get your rest, darling. He says, baby, should I still get the room tomorrow? She says, well, we would have more money, so yes, hon. He says, well, what about sneaking you in, dear? She says, I will, hun. She says, I am not forbidden from your room? And he said, you mean we will, dear? Baby, you won't be. Then Gypsy says, yes, we will, hun. Did you bring your computer, hun? If you look up where you're at and my house, we're close. He says, honey, you know I always bring my computer. She says, okay, good, hun. I just told your mom you're perfectly fine. That's good, dear. She says, hun, does he require just the gloves and the knife? But she says, Groves and the knife. Hun, that side of me expects duct tape too to muffle her. She says, okay, baby, we have that. I'll pre-cut it. He says, that's good, dear. However, he expects you to give him the full roll. I will only have black bondage tape and Minnie Mouse duct tape. He said the Minnie Mouse duct tape, hun. She says, okay, hun. He says, dear, I should ask you this before he has to. Is your mom a light or deep sleeper? Gypsy says, light, hun. He says, okay, dear. Now he's excited. She says she sleeps on her tummy, like I said, but a light sleeper. She says, the shite's going to go down tonight, Ruby said. He says, what does she mean by that, dear? He said, please let me know as soon as you can, hun. She says, it means it all happens tonight. He says, how does Ruby feel about it all, hun? She says, she keeps me numb in order to cope and survive, hun. She says, keeping me focused. He says, okay, dear. I guess she seems to be learning how to deal with him slowly then. She says, for motivation's sake, bring your A game, but this is life with me on the line. She says, yes, hun, every part is a slow lover and learner, maybe not Candy. He says, babe, it's my evil side doing it. He won't mess up because he enjoys killing. He says, why you say that about Candy, dear? Gypsy says she loves fast, LOL. He says, so she'll attach onto him instantly, dear? Yes, I mean my dom side, dear. She said, exactly, hun. He said, okay, baby, as long as it's only to him and she would use other guys or he will see to put her in her place quickly, dear. She says, that's right, hun. He says, good, dear. She says, baby, please make sure to read that last message and answer it, please. He said that. She said, hi, sweetie, just checking in. He said, hey, dear, I miss you too. He said, guess you don't have time to answer me, hun. The night is going by slow. Gypsy said, I'm preparing. He said, I see. Then he said, talk to you later, I guess. He said, I say this because you're obviously busy. She says, LOL, okay, baby. He says, why the laughter? I don't get it. No explanation. He says, I see today is really falling apart. Wow. Then he says, obviously you're not as lonely without me as I am without you, because you're not truly communicating with me and you have no clue how painful it is to me, or you wouldn't be laughing at me. She says, darling, I'm getting naked in the tub. I was only excited. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just happy, she said. I'm in the tub, hun. Then he said, sorry, dear. I guess I'm just missing you too much. It's overwhelming me. She said, I left the gloves outside the front door and the screen door is squeaky, so try to open it just enough to get in and close it gently. Gentle. She said, I miss you too soon. I miss you too soon, sweetheart. She says, I'll hand him the knife and duct tape inside, darling. I'll pre-cut and ready. Does your mom know about me going back with you, hun? She said. He says, don't. Dear, you're telling all this to my evil side. He knows he is the one who agreed to do it. He says, dear, I was open to her about that a long time ago, and she is letting me make life decisions by myself with you, hun. She trusts me. He says, she just doesn't know the full, dear. He says, full plan, dear. Then he says, does her floor squeak, hun? Yes, he wanted me to ask you. She says, no, hun, it's all carpet. And then Gypsy says, tell him my private parts are shaved. Then he says, okay, baby, he is excited to do this. What about the rest of the bottom half is what he had me ask you. She said, I will do my legs as soon as he knocks, hun. He says, okay, baby, don't be alarmed if he speaks because, yes, he sounds evil, hun. Gypsy says, okay, darling. Gypsy says, I'm going to go eat, hun. He says, that's Daddy's girl. That's Daddy's good girl. She says, I'm doing my nails too. He says, well, dear, did say he expects you to look like his woman should, so that is a good idea, darling. And he said, red fingernail polish, hun? He said, dear, to please him, I suggest you wear red lipstick too, hun. Just trying to help you out, baby. She says, I don't have any, hun. She says, I'm painting them a dark pink, hun. She says, it goes with my pink boots. He says, lip gloss, hun, possibly pink, if you want him to be a magnet to you. Well, pink makes him a magnet to you, dear. She says, I have pink lip gloss, hun. He said, if you want him to be a magnet to you, then wear it, dear. And then he says, answer that question when you get the chance to, dear, as long as you can answer it. Then he says, hun, you still haven't answered that question. I'm still waiting. Then she says, I'll just be in my nightgown with painted pink nails and lip gloss. He says, okay, dear, but when he gets you from the bathroom, suggest you are naked when he sees you after the deed. She says, okay, darling. She says, I won't cry, say goodnight online. I want to say it in person, hun. He says, that's understandable, darling, along with our first real goodnight kiss, sweetie. She says, exactly, Daddy. He says, aw, that never gets old when you call me Daddy. She says, you should get some sleep, hun. Mom goes to bed at like 4 a.m. Okay, he says, hun, I got too much sleep already. She says, okay, darling. She says, I'll wear you out. Then he says, hun, don't forget, you got to deal with my evil side first when we have our fun. So he may wear you out because if you forgot, he is the most sexual part of me. Then he says, please don't forget that, dear, that I wear you out even more, honey. She says, okay, darling, I understand. He says, I'm glad you do, baby. I'll enjoy just being able to touch your silky skin. She says, I can't wait to be with you too, darling. But, if you want to wait for sex, we have all day tomorrow, just so you know. She says, after my deal. He says, honey, our nicknames as a couple is Mr. and Mrs. Sex. He says, so what do you think I'm thinking, dear? She says, I know what you're thinking, dear. She said, you'll have me as much as you can. And then he says, darling, see, we're true to our nicknames as a couple, honey. He says, because I know you won't want it any other way. Right, dear? And then he said, I guess you're not there, hun. Hope you're back soon. She says, right, darling, but can we take our time, hun? He says, we will be able to at the hotel, sweetheart. She says, okay, good, sweetheart. Hope I look pretty. He says, honey, you always look appealing to me. She says, I hope so, hun. I'm shaking. I'm nervous. I guess it's if all goes okay. He says, baby, it will, and you better than not just romantic wife of mine, but also my twin flame, my female daughter, my soulmate that you were meant to be, honey. And then she said, I am daddy, just as a backup. If it doesn't go right, run out of the house as fast as you can, hon. And then he says, baby, there is no other option. He is going to finish her no matter what. That is how it is. She says, okay, darling, he is brave. I respect and admire that. She sends a smiley face. Okay, darling, he is brave. I respect and admire that. How's the bed? Is it soft, hon? Honey, you forgot, though, he is ruthless, and his hatred of her will force her to die, hon. And then he said, you'll enjoy it, baby. And then she said, what will you be wearing, hun? And he said, something that will terrify her, hun. It's all black, and my evil side picked the full outfit, darling. And then she said, okay, darling, I just have to remember it's still you. He said, yes, just the darkness in me, dear, just like the ruby in the darkness in you, honey. And she said, but after we comfort each other. And he said, after we do that, sweetheart, I'll hold you like the baby girl of mine that you are. And she says, and we will be happy soon after this night. We never bring it up. Boy. He said, baby, we wouldn't except for the part about us meeting, honey. And then she says, right, hon. He says, I know what you were clicking on the right, honey. Right tone, he says. Right tone, honey. And then there's a phone number. And then he says, sorry for confusing you, dear, but I hope you know what I meant. And he says, hopefully you'll answer soon, dear. June 10th, Wednesday. Gypsy says, I know what you mean, hun. It's getting close to the time. She took her sleep aid pill. He said, okay, baby, I'm trying to calculate the money for the ride there. She says, and once you're inside the house, we stay silent, not even a whisper until after I open the bathroom door. Okay, sir? Okay. Okay, hun? I just want to say thank you. You're my hero, and I would never leave you. I'm staying with you for eternity. She gives a address of the house. He says, okay, baby, but he hasn't said anything yet, dear. He says, thank you, sweetheart. She says, my house has a ramp, and the front porch is a ramp. It's painted white. He says, okay, dear. And then she says, yes, my twin flame soulmate. I have said I love you for her. I'm at peace. Oh gosh, ouch, I just hit my arm. I'm proud of you, sweetie, and I'm glad I could help, he said. She says, will you need an anxiety med to calm you down after, hun? She says, you're the most important person to me, sweetie. When you're like me, fight for what I want. Fight for what you want and need. You're like me, that's what she says. He says, dear, I don't believe in meds. In me, I seem to be immune to them, but you just do what I taught you and I'll calm down if it's me. But just listen and obey my evil side and you'll calm him down within time. Okay. Then she says, I hope he loves me too, not just Ruby. She says, I got pain meds for my back and I exercise my legs, so I'll be a bit weak walking, but it'll build strength. He says, no, you mean to say you're like Daddy. It could be part of why your daddy's a good girl, but you're more like Daddy than you may realize, dear. And then she says, I'm not used to my weight on walking. Gravity is new. He said, I believe in you, honey, as I always have, so I know someday you'll walk completely normal. She said, I just realized that the next New Year's I'll be able to kiss you. I never had a New Year's kiss. She says, I need to practice kissing. We are like two-ish we're like two fish going for one hook. She said, she's drifting off to sleep. Is there anything you need to know, hun? He said, as for him loving you, my evil side does. However, you must obey him without question unless you don't know what to do. Otherwise, obey him without question, dear, and someday he'll worship you too. Then he said, baby, we're natural at kissing. We just need time to prove it. She said, will he allow me to wet his thing before he takes me, hon? I don't know if he's going to do it, where he's going to do it. I was hoping for A, with you first. Wow, Gypsy, tell us how you really feel. She says, not that I can think of, dear, except letting him in the front, darling. She says, because at the hotel, can we go slow? Oh, and you may not need to put on the gloves, because we will sink it so it's never found. Sink it. So see, she's talking about sinking the knife, so why'd she send it? So, interesting. Sink it so it's never found. And yes, she tells him he doesn't need gloves. Front. She says, dear, when he R's, he takes all parts of the body so that he'll likely do... Oh, no, this is what he said. Dear, when he R's, he takes all parts of the body so he'll likely do A to you first, hon. He says he is still going to put the gloves on, dear. She says, well, he at least puts saliva so I don't get traumatized, hon. He says, remember to take my words to heart, dear. Just listen and obey without question, and he won't traumatize you. But if you aren't a good girl, he will then. Do it. It just depends on how well you listen to him, dear. She said, I'll listen to him, darling. It's go time. Are you ready? She said, no matter what, I'm yours forever. And he says, and thanks for your answering the question, hon. So, should I call the cab, dear? She says, I love, adore, and worship you, my everything. She says, yes, darling, call the cab. He says, I understand, dear, as I am the same. I love, adore, and worship you too, my everything times infinity. He says, okay, baby, I'll see you soon. She says, by the way, the gloves are blue, and how long must I hold my ears, hun? He says, 5 at the most, dear, and then the next text will be from him. She says, okay, darling, I'll talk to you when this is all done. Yes, hun, he says. She says, sir, will you text me once you're at the door with the gloves on? She's sleeping, very light, Gypsy said. He says, I'll hear, and you get your arse to the bathroom. You open the door. She says, yes, sir, I'm going now, sir. Breathes once. And that's the end of that. So those were her texts. And I think I'm going to call it a night because it's been a long day and I've got a super long day tomorrow, and I've got to get that giveaway finished in the morning, and I've got to do some packing and everything else. So thank you guys. Taco Junebug. No, they mailed the knife to his house, right? Yes, they did. Hi, Canadian Nana. Hi, Honey Floor. There's a body of water next to the house, about a 20-minute walk. I bet that's where the other knife is. I saw that on the internet. Hi, it's Pink. Okay, everybody. Apparently the knife she stole at Walmart came in a 3-pack or a 2-pack, and Dee Dee has 2 different knives in her from the scarring. Okay, love you guys. God bless. Prayers. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye now.